G'day guys, welcome to my RS feature video. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about NRL Round 12 recap preview for 2021 guys. Let's get started. So starting off with this first game of this match, we see the Broncos going up against the Melbourne Storm. Now this game's being really executed by the Melbourne Storm. They are a really solid team. The Broncos aren't really much of a solid team. I thought they were going to really put some good effort in, but unfortunately they didn't. Credit to the Melbourne Storm, they are a really good team. Like in Josh Addo-Carr, Brandon Smith, he was absolutely dominant for this game. He was absolutely real good in that match. Obviously you got like Cooper Johns, he played in that game, number 21 for that jersey. In that side, it was basically a really good game in that match, but anyway, it was 40 points to 12 for that scoreline in that match anyway, and it was a really good match by this team. The Broncos are really good of a team, but unfortunately though, since they aren't really getting the job done, sometimes they aren't really much of good of a team anyway. But anyway, let's have a look at the Broncos tries. What we have here is Cobe, Hetherington and Jesse Arthurs. But let's have a look at the Storm tries. What we have here is Brandon Smith that scored 2 tries, Tui Kamika, Josh Addo-Carr, George Jennings, Cooper Johns and Nico Hines. But Brandon Smith obviously scored 2 tries in that game. But my player of the game went to number 9 from the Melbourne Storm in that match, Brandon Smith. I think he had a wonderful game, scoring 2 tries in that game. Usually he doesn't really work much, very hard. Usually it's like Josh Addo-Carr or Cooper Johns or someone else, but I just think Brandon Smith was the one that I think it was the player of that game, who I think it was playing that match anyway. But really dominant first half and second half by this team, and really good attribute by this club. But what I can think about this game is a really good match by the Melbourne Storm, and really credit to the Melbourne Storm for making a really good win against the Brisbane Broncos, 40 points to 12 anyway. The next game of that match, we see the Cowboys going up against the Warriors. Now in this game, the Warriors didn't really do much really well, but it was a pretty tight game. I was expecting this game to be a field goal match. Credit to Valentine Holmes for kicking this field goal to make it 29 points to 28 in that final moment of that game anyway. But the Warriors, credit to them, they were working really hard and they are a really good team, really standing up to their hardest into that match anyway. But it was pretty much a tight game anyway, and I just didn't think in this game that the Warriors weren't going to win. It was going to be a hard game, and I did think that, because I reckon that if the Cowboys would have won that game, it would have been a tight match and it would have gone the field goal in that game. But yeah, credit to the Valentine Holmes for making a really good match, to making a really winning game of that match. But yeah, 29 points to 28 in that game for that scoreline, and credit to the Cowboys for making a really good game. They were trying their best, they were really executing very well, and I just think that they were executing it very well in that game, and they were really working hard, really better and better, and then just keep on doing that every time. Anyway, let's have a look at the Warriors tries anyway. So what we have here is Ewan Aiken that scored 2 tries, Reece Walsh, Marcelo Montoya, Ben Murdoch-Masila. Let's have a look at the Cowboys tries. What we have here is Kyle Felt, Murray Tuolungi, Jake Clifford, Scott Drinkwater and Hamiso Tubuai-Fidau. And my player of the game went to number 1, the fullback for the North Queensland Cowboys in that game, Valentine Holmes. He had a wonderful game, really kicked the field goal to make it 29 points to 28 for that scoreline, and yeah, credit to the Cowboys for making a really good effort against the Warriors. But I didn't think the Warriors were going to win in that game, but they were trying their best, and the Warriors are a really good team anyway, so yeah, well done for the Cowboys. The next game of that match, we see the West Tigers going up against the Dragons. Now in this game, the Dragons were really on top of their form in that first half, but in the second half, unfortunately, the West Tigers were really coming on strong and really defeating the Dragons in that game. The Dragons, unfortunately, though, they were just not doing their hardest at the moment, but the Dragons, unfortunately, they are a really top team, but sometimes when, like, they are a really top team when they have, like, Matt Duffy and other players like Mikali Ravalawa, but without Matt Duffy with that talented speed and reflection of that game, there's no Dragons in that match because Cody Ramsey, the winger, went to the fullback side. He's just not a fullback, and replacing him is just hard for the Dragons side, and I feel so sorry for the Dragons, but unfortunately they didn't really execute that game and didn't win that match. But it was 34 points to 18 in that game, and well done from the West Tigers for making a really good win in that match anyway. But the Dragons are a really good team, but I just fortunately think that they're just going to fall down below and not really execute very well, because unfortunately though Matt Duffy is injured with a shoulder injury, so that means it will affect the Dragons for that season this year anyway. So let's have a look at the Dragons tries. What we have here is Braden Williami, Ben Hunt and Talatala Monet. Talatala Monet, well done for making a really good try, and yeah, you are a really good player. But let's have a look at the West Tigers tries. What we have here is James Roberts, that scored 2 tries, David Nofaluma, Dane Laurie, Alex Satharth, and Tommy Talau. And my player of the game went to number 5 from the West Tigers in that match that scored 2 tries in that game, James Roberts. I think he had a wonderful game, really scoring that match. 2 tries in that game, and yeah, well done from him, and well done from the West Tigers anyway. The next game of that match, we see the Panthers going up against the Bulldogs. Now, the Bulldogs, as I mentioned before about last week, the Bulldogs aren't really executing that well, and the only try in that game was 30 points to 4 for that scoreline. And as I said to entertain us, apparently he thinks that the Panthers weren't doing that good and they were playing very bad. I thought the Panthers played really solid and really well in that game to really putting pressure on the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs didn't really do much in that game, and I just didn't think in that game they were just not really executing very well. And usually they have good players out there, but it's just not working for them at the moment, and I reckon it'll take some time, a couple of years, and regroup, reboot themselves. But I just think that this season, the Bulldogs aren't doing really well at the moment. But in that game, the Panthers are a really good side, and unfortunately though, since the Panthers are losing players due to Origin, because it is Origin coming up very, very soon, the Panthers will probably miss a couple of players, so I hate to think if they're going to fall down below due to a number of players aren't playing in that game. But anyway, what can we do? But the only try that basically scored in that game for the Bulldogs was Aaron Shoop. I don't know how you say it right, so don't blame me for that. But let's have a look at the Panthers tries. What we have here is Charlie Staines that scored 2 tries, Spencer Linu, Paul Momorowski, Matt Burton and Stephen Crichton. And my player of the game went to number 2 from the Panthers in that match that scored 2 tries in that game, Charlie Staines. The next game of that match, we see the Rabbitohs going up against the Eels. Now, the Eels in this game, I know I feel so sorry, but since Manly defeated the Eels 28 points to 6, this game was 38 points to 20 in that game. And I just feel so sorry for the Parramatta Eels because they are a really good team, and just the way how they're playing is pretty solid, but not good enough, I'd say. Because the Eels, I know they're working very hard to really boot themselves, but they're not a really good team at the moment. And they're just, half of them is just like, yeah, they're a really good team, but then the other half are not a very good team. Doesn't mean that I'm being negative or anything like that. I'm trying to say that the Parramatta Eels need to work really hard next time if they want to really get some wins in any other games. But credit to the Rabbitohs though, they were absolutely really on top of their form, and since they've got Dane Gagai, Adam Reynolds, Alex Johnston, Cody Walker, Latrell Mitchell, all of them back. They are a really good team, and without them, there is no Rabbitohs, because they're just really terrible without those players, without the talent in that team. But let's have a look at the Eels tries. What we have here is Clint Gutherson, Isaiah Papali'i, Marco Sevo, and Jacob Arthur. Let's have a look at the Rabbitohs tries. What we have here is Damien Cook, Alex Johnston that scored 3 tries, Dane Gagai that scored 3 tries in that game. But my player of the match went to number 2 from the South Sydney Rabbitohs in that game that scored 3 tries in that match, Alex Johnston. I think he had a wonderful game, and credit to the Rabbitohs for making a really good match. But yeah, 38 points to 20 for that scoreline anyway, and credit to the Rabbitohs for making a really good win. The next game of that match, we see the Roosters going up against the Raiders. Now, okay, the Raiders in that game, they were really on top of their form, but the Roosters, since they were coming out with absolute energy and spark and speed and really solid match by really solid team, I just didn't think in this game that they were really on top of their form, and I just didn't think in this match the Roosters in that game were really solid, but they were, because they were really thrashing the Raiders in that game. 44-16 in that match. Really high thrashing scoreline in that match. And the Raiders, I think the first half they were playing absolutely excellent in that match and really scoring 3 tries in that game, but only I think missing 1 goal, I would say. But the Raiders, so I just have to say they are a really good team, but yeah, the Roosters were absolutely playing solid in that match. But let's have a look at the Raiders tries. So what we have here is Josh Hodgson, Corey Horsburgh, and Ryan James. Let's have a look at the Roosters tries. What we have is Joseph Suwali, Lachlan Lamb, Satili Tupanua that scored 2 tries, Daniel Tupou, Joseph Manu that scored 2 tries, and Josh Morris. And my player of the game in that match went to number 4 from the Sydney Roosters in that match, Joseph Manu. I think he had a wonderful game, really scoring some tries and absolutely executing very well. But I just didn't think in that game went to really a big scoreline, 44-16, and I wasn't expecting the scoreline to be a really good matchup anyway. But yeah, credit to the Sydney Roosters for making a really good match against the Canberra Raiders anyway. The next game of that match, we see the Sharks going up against the Titans. Now, in this game, they were playing absolutely excellent. The Titans were really sloppy in that game, and I just didn't think that the Titans really played a solid game in that match, and I just wasn't expecting the Titans to make a really good win in that game, but I just thought the Titans were going to win, but unfortunately they didn't. The Sharks won that game. But the scoreline in that match was 38 points to 10 in that game. And I just didn't think the Sharks were going to win in that match. But it was obviously an upset that made the Sharks bite in that match anyway. But the Titans, though, since they are a really good team, I just didn't think that a lot of defense happened in that game. And since that, I just didn't really think that in that game was a really good performance by the Titans in that game. But the only 2 tries for the Titans in that game, in that match, was Brian Kelly and Kevin Proctor. Let's have a look at the Sharks tries. What we have here is Jesse Ramian, Ronaldo Mulatalo that scored 2 tries, Jack Williams, Blake Brayley, and Connor Tracy. And my player of the game went to number 5 from the Cronulla Sharks in that match that scored 2 tries in that game, Ronaldo Mulatalo. I think he had a wonderful game, really stood hard, scoring 2 tries in that game. He's just really working himself very hard, and I just didn't think in that match went to a really good game. But I just wasn't expecting this scoreline happening for a big scoreline in that match. And usually the Sharks are a really good team, but yeah, Ronaldo Mulatalo, he's just an absolute workhorse and really standing it hard for the Cronulla Sharks. But yeah, credit to the Cronulla Sharks for making a really good match against the Titans anyway. And last but certainly not least, we see the Knights going up against the Manly Seagulls. Now in this game, the Manly Seagulls, the first half they were leading 10 points to nil, but unfortunately though, the second half led up to the Knights, and usually the Newcastle Knights aren't really much of an executing team. But without Kalen Ponga, I just didn't think the Newcastle Knights really had that energy and spark and speed for that game. But in that match was absolutely excellent by the Newcastle Knights for making a really good win. But really though, still, just because they made this win doesn't mean that they are a really good team for the top 8. They need to really work hard to make the top 8 in that game. But in this match though, I just didn't think in this game that the Knights were going to win in that match, but it was really unexpected to have that Newcastle Knights win in that match. But it was 18 points to 10 in that game, a really solid match in that game. But for Benchovojevic, number 18 for that squad for the Manly Seagulls, well done from him for making a really good game of his debut. But unfortunately though, he only made it for 1 minute and 40 seconds, I believe, and then he was concussed. So yeah, unfortunately though, yeah, he was concussed, so I felt so sorry for him anyway. But the Manly Seagulls are a really good team, and also the Newcastle Knights are too. Well, let's have a look at the Manly Seagulls tries. What we have here is Brad Parker and Jason Saab. Let's have a look at the Newcastle Knights tries. What we have here is Stafford Toa, Suaso Su, and Daniel Saifiti. And my player of the game went to number 2 from the Newcastle Knights in that match, Stafford Toa. I think he had a wonderful game scoring. That try in that match was really working for him, and yeah, he's a really good player in that match anyway. But yeah, Newcastle Knights are a really good team. But yeah, well done from the Newcastle Knights for making a really good win, 18 points to 10 against the Manly Seagulls. Thanks guys for watching my video, guys. Stay tuned for more. I'll be doing a couple of videos coming to you guys soon. Also, I'll be doing more videos coming to you guys soon, so stay tuned for more. Plus, leave a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and for this video. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Till then, take care guys, stay safe, and have a good one. Plus, let's get up to 300 subscribers. We're sitting on 213 anyway. Thanks guys for subscribing to my YouTube channel. Really appreciate it. Thank you guys. Really want to get up to 300 subscribers. So let's get up to that, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.